Rajiv Shesh has been working in the technology industry for quite a long time. He started in the late 1970s, in fact, as an electrical engineering student in India. And in the 4+ decades that followed, he witnessed personally the tech-driven transformation of our entire world. And he played a reasonably significant role in that himself. Now, today, he is the corporate vice president of HCLTech, one of the largest technology companies in the world. It is home to nearly 250,000 employees, maybe more. And he is also the chief revenue officer for HCLSoftware, a division of HCLTech that delivers applications and services to 20,000 plus companies around the world, including at least half of the Fortune 1000 top companies in the world. AI has played a fairly major role in that entire journey. He was looking at it academically with fellow interested people back in the 80s, but he's now in his position at his company helping all of those thousands of companies try to understand what AI is and how they can apply it and how they can transform their own organizations with it once more. But I had one question really for Rajiv on today's podcast, and that was, in reality, where is he on the expectations spectrum when it comes to AI? And how is he translating that into the sort of advice that he's giving to his clients? Is he really excited about it, or is he worried? Rajiv, welcome to the Node podcast. We're talking today about something that you know a lot about, and I've had a good amount of time to work in and around it. But the first thing I'm really interested in knowing about is you, honestly, because you're in a lofty position. But how did you get there? What's the background? What's your story? How did you end up doing these things where you are now?
I'm really delighted to be here. I mean, basically, it's great talking on subjects like artificial intelligence. My association with subjects like this started when I was an engineering student way back in the 1980s. And, one of the fashionable things to do that time was to select computer science as your elective. And that's what I did. So my primary subject of education in my electrical engineering course was computer science and control systems. And during that time, we had a paper read on artificial intelligence. Okay, so a subject that was a matter of fascination at that time, and it was meant to be an area of work which was sitting in academia and the labs and folks like that. But that was the only association. But there was fascination on this subject as I grew to be an electrical engineer, started by designing and marketing switchgear, and then got into IT industry, and in India got an opportunity to be associated with several areas of innovation, right from the stock exchange in Mumbai to the banking systems and all of that, and automation in a big way. To a situation then I moved on to Singapore, where we were transforming our business into a software and a services business. And at that point in time, again, automation became a very important part of the way in which Singapore government was transforming, got associated with that. Moved on to pure software in the United States, doing work for governments, and engineering services post that. So during our engineering services, we had a fascinating group of people, which I was responsible for managing. These guys used to talk about large data and artificial intelligence. And one of them actually walked up to me and he said, "Rajiv, I have figured out a way of explaining AI." And that was a fascinating insight into, young kids, focused on explaining artificial intelligence. It was mainly, all our engagements were primarily to stay ahead of competition. All our engagements are primarily to actually talk to our customers that look, as an organization, we are thinking about technology that is likely to come and is likely to make an impact on our day-to-day working. Okay. So it was as a part of engineering and R&D services and practice that I was involved with, and dealing with uh, people who were enthusiastically working on this subject and creating projects for us. Right. Very often we had to justify as to what are these people doing, right? I mean, but till the time we started working as a part of my job with some of the big software companies with whom we were associated with, um, and some of them were working on some practical applications of big data models and artificial intelligence, where our teams, therefore, with this knowledge, started to get engaged. Okay. Um, and in 2 years ago, uh, I was told, you go and run HCLSoftware as the chief revenue officer for HCLSoftware. Now, and around that time, something very interesting happened, which was the actual emergence of ChatGPT, which started explaining to people what did artificial intelligence actually mean. You know, to people who are working in the software industry, who are dealing with software, people who are dealing with applications, people who are dealing with labs, engineering, and all of that, had an idea about and were using artificial intelligence in different forms you know, of their applications. But to a common person, it looked like a nerdy play wherein, it's something that was meant for people who were in a different breed altogether. But now you actually started understanding that you were actually composing things with AI. And that's where, the boards of organizations, our clients, your relatives, your friends, started saying, hey, now we understand what this game is all about, right? And actually people develop different kinds of understanding. So for me, I'm very fortunate that to have seen transition from very physical objects and at early stage of computing to a stage wherein we are now talking about AI factories. From a stage wherein uh, the cost of compute and storage was that high, to a situation wherein you've got disposable and elastic compute and large data capacities, which enable people to work with. I mean, my career now, which has spanned over 3.5 decades, actually has given me this opportunity to kind of engage at different elements of how things have evolved. So where I find myself right now is that, on one hand, we've got a software business to run, and on the other hand, we've got this expectation from our customers in terms of how to make their operations very, very efficient. And very recently, I was just talking to my colleagues and saying that, look, we live in a kind of a turbulent time, not because the economy is sinking, or we are. It is just that one gets a feeling that we are in a state of transience, and I draw from Jeffrey Moore's Inside the Tornado and Crossing the Chasm kind of analogy to our current situation. I find that this is a situation wherein there is a degree of uncertainty in terms of the impact of AI on our lives, on our professions, and our business. Uh, there is a degree of uncertainty in terms of the impact automation is going to result in different elements of competitiveness in business. Right? And therefore, there is a caution in terms of how much money do you want to spend on different aspects. So it's a turbulent time that we're going through.
Yeah. So
And
if I can ask, obviously, we understand that you've been on a journey that most people haven't, which takes you up to a place where you've got a unique perspective on what it is that's going, the transition, if you like, that we're now looking at. Last time we spoke, you mentioned that actually a lot of the time, HCLSoftware obviously has a lot of big clients around the world, and a lot of your time is spent managing expectations around what AI is, what it will become, what it might do, what it might cost. How would you characterize the attitude of your clients, generally speaking, in large organizations who are trying to decide where to place their investments? Where are they at on the expectation curve, if you like? Are they realistic, or are they incredibly optimistic, or far too pessimistic? Where are they at?
so managing expectation is a part of, almost an everyday act, you know, of so when I talk to our clients, I mean, some of them, one of the clients that I've been working with very closely, it's a large financial institution with very large client base, and they're fascinated with the concept of hyper personalization and what AI can do for hyper personalization. I mean, that's where they are. They are exploring large language models in terms of the capability that these offer in terms of dealing with this. And if I was to just take this as an example, I mean, so if you look at the senior management of this organization, they're fascinated by the potential that it offers, right? And the kind of competitiveness that AI can bring to their business. Right? And so much so that their expectations are very high, okay, in terms of what it can do for them. Then there is another element of this organization that is dealing with data associated with to deliver the expectations of the executives. And they are kind of thinking, how do I manage the data associated with it? Then there is another part of the organization that is looking at regulation and cost, right? As to how do I deal with regulation and cost associated with it. And we find ourselves in a very interesting position wherein we need to tidy these three elements of this organization in terms of coming up with a pragmatic solution that meets the data privacy requirement of this financial institution. It actually ties in the disparate data sources that we have, and it also kind of ties in with the expectations that the management has in terms of what all this can do for them at a reasonable price point and cost point. So that is one side of an organization which I would say is fairly evolved in their thinking on how to use AI, and they have a clearly defined expectation in terms of that they want to achieve hyper personalization, which is likely to yield a phenomenal amount of results for them. On the other hand, you get into a lot of conversations which are not that seriously thought about, wherein people are downright scared as to what is going to happen to jobs. Right? And they're extremely worried about, that look, will we have to, some people even bother about, look, what kind of jobs our children are going to do, et cetera, et cetera. But the interesting thing is that, so that's fear side of it, what's going to happen, when AI takes over everything. Second is that, the expectations that we can actually use large language models for pretty much everything that we want to do, right? And and we can actually super automate things and etc. So the truth lies somewhere in between, and one of the things that I personally feel that we as a software company need to take responsibility for is the human in loop concept. We believe that technology that if it assists people to perform their jobs better, uh, it opens up opportunities for people to leverage their talents better, uh, and free up more time for engaging with society better. I think that is the expectation that we keep,
Yeah.
working on. And then at the same time, solving pragmatic problems like this large financial institution in terms of where they've got a specific requirement, uh, and you've got to tidy up a whole bunch of things inside the organization to deliver results to them.
Yeah. A lot of people I've spoken to who are kind of in relatively senior positions who are trying to decide how to manage AI with their people, if you like. So not just looking at how AI can be implemented to drive efficiencies or find new profit opportunities or whatever it is they might be doing, but they're saying, actually, what is the impact on our people here? Ultimately, have come to the conclusion that it's not really about reducing headcount in any way, but that headcount needs to kind of go on the journey too, and it needs to change, because actually the decisions that people ultimately are making, and especially when they're involving customers, aren't changing. It's not like AI is going to suddenly replace the decision making, or at least not yet. Not yet, anyway. And that's the bit that human beings are very good at anyway. That where that interface exists between a machine carrying out a set of tasks towards a purpose defined by and delivered by humans. That isn't going to change, and so it's more about a skills development thing than a wholesale workforce reduction or change or anything like that. Generally speaking, would that align with
Yeah, I
what your
would think
thoughts
so.
are on that?
That's what I see actually. I see essentially if we were to create a straightforward linear diagram between a linear association between improving efficiency, process, and profitability, right? Uh, which is what these systems are driving towards enabling. Profitable organizations will hire more people. You know, the thing is that you are not likely to come across organizations that are growing profitably, and firing people. That's something that is not heard of. So, if you were to just take that one simple paradigm, that profitably growing organizations are continuously going to be focused on creating economic wealth, are going to be hiring people, right? Uh, and when they are going to be hiring people, people will get trained to perform the new jobs that these organizations will be doing. And, and it is remarkable how people are willing to get trained to be gainfully engaged in the process of driving company growth and profitability. So, the way I see it is this actually creates an interesting challenge for leaderships in these organizations in terms of how do we rally our people uh, behind an agenda which actually that 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 we are trying to drive. You know, profitable growth is a very good agenda to drive. Uh, Contribution to society is a big agenda to drive, and creativity and innovation is a big agenda to drive. And as AI and optimization and these techniques actually enable these things, and if well used, drive profitable growth. I think the leadership has a great opportunity to be able to communicate its message with its team and people in terms of aligning with this. And I've always found that people are willing to transform, pick up new learning, and contribute to a well-defined agenda.
Yeah. And on that, just out of interest, obviously you've got this long background that began with computer science, engineering, a career working at the kind of the front end of technology and innovation and so on, to the point now where we've got potentially the emergence of tools that can do a lot of the thinking that you might have been doing yourself over that time. If you would pretend that I'm 12 years old and I was looking ahead thinking, well, I'm not sure what my place is in this world. From an educational point of view, what would you advise me, the 12-year-old, to do? Because I've got an idea, which is, realistically, if I was 12, I may not think that hardcore maths and calculus and all those things and engineering and those kind of skills may be less relevant to my future employer than my creative problem-solving abilities, my ability to debate with other people, the humanities and arts and all those things. It feels to me actually might be a more useful thing for a human being to have in the presence of AI these days. What would you say about that? If people were saying, look, what should the basic skills be of people that are coming in to the workforce now in an age of AI? What should they be most competent at?
Yeah. So this is how I see it. I mean, I remember Ramli, that I was asked a question during my first job interview. It was a highly technical question about capacitors and resistors and things like that, and the gentleman was trying to test my knowledge on electrical engineering, right? So the I got I was offered that job, but my response was that, look, I can answer all the questions that you asked me, but you have a very good library where I can go and read everything and answer your questions, right? So and fortunately for me, the interviewer recognized my answer, and we started talking about me more than my concepts in electrical engineering. So this is how I think about learning, right? See, essentially, there is static knowledge, which a lot of educational institutions spend a lot of time in imparting. Okay? Now, that static knowledge can be acquired through all kinds of means now. Like, for example, the functioning of certain devices which have been functioning for a period of time. It's all available on the internet. I mean, I can check, right? But then there are some very important things that people need to learn. Is learning to learn is an important skill, which needs to be there. And how do you learn to learn? And in my view, there is a degree of abstraction in mathematics, right? In math, where you learn to learn. I mean, one of the things about math is that you learn to learn. The same thing is language. You learn to learn. So it is very key that I think students need to focus on these two things perennially, in my view, math and language. Because these are two tools which will actually help you develop faculty in many, many different areas, right? Like if you want to understand economic models, you can rely on one faculty, and you want to understand literature, you can apply another faculty. You want to learn, and So that I think is core element of learning. And then of course, social skills are so important, and we have everything, all kinds of headwinds that are actually being created that are blocking us from developing these social skills. And so therefore, schools and colleges and academic institutions, which actually present an opportunity for people to interact with each other, I think there should be focus on interaction and building that capability. And finally, I think there are two other areas I think where learning can be very useful. One is an ability to play team sport of some kind.
I wasn't expecting you to say that. Okay.
Yeah, is I think an important thing, because it actually enables you to plan together, strategize together, uh, lose together, win together, share together, and those are great skills. I think people need to be there, and some kind of a format of taste in finer things in performing arts is something that personally fascinates me, be it music or theater or something like that, poetry, uh, which is what develops a taste for uh, develops taste,
Yeah, full stop.
be it food, be it whatever, develops taste, and that the taste development is I think an important element of how do you become an interesting person, so that you know. So that's what I would say. I mean, it's a very broad thing. Learning to learn math and language, and schools being a place for interaction
Yeah.
and something to team together, and development of taste for fine things. That's what I would say should be
Yeah.
the focus.
Yeah, I think through lots of conversations I've had, I think the idea that AI, and we'll see how it develops and where it finds itself becoming most transformative over the next year, 2, 3 years. But it seems to me like the companies that are able to foster cultures of innovative and creative people are going to be the ones that find the most interesting solutions for that and find new opportunities with that, rather than just ways to, not that this is not important, but rather than just finding ways to drive efficiencies into existing systems and products and services, etc. But the kinds of groups of people who can think in slightly new directions will be the ones populated by people who have played a lot of team sports, who have stood up in front of other people and debated each other, who have explored the arts, because those are the kinds of people with a generalist set of interests. Hopefully, ideally, that includes maths and the things that you were talking about there, who will be able to ride the tide of capability that AI provides them to imagine new and interesting things, whether that's in service of customers or developing whole new products and things like that. And I want, not that this is going anywhere as a conversation, but I wonder if that might be something that people should be thinking about if what they're doing, for example, is funding public school systems and so on, where actually over the last 20 years or so, we've seen a diminution of those kinds of things, a reduction in the amount of time that kids might spend doing things like performing arts, because that's not reading, writing, or math, so it can't be important, right? It feels like the arrival of AI to me means that actually that stuff probably is really important, because those are the interesting people who can ask interesting questions of AI ultimately.
Ultimately, I think as AI automation and some of these paradigms become more important, the importance of people, good people in an organization will continue to grow. Okay. The way I see it is if you were to draw a parallel between let's say a very simple thing like making a livelihood and earning, right? So so today, if you were to just compare, if you make a living from art, okay, uh, you just on a scale of 1 on 100, if you want to make a living on art, you need to be in the top 10 percentile.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to make a living in sport, you need to be in the top 5 percentile, 10 percentile. Okay, to make a living by going to office, you need to be average. Okay, I can be average and still be employed and doing whatever I'm doing. So what AI will actually force people to do is to get to a higher and higher percentile in terms of our ability to do what we want to do in order to make a living in this area. So that's a very good thing. A lot of average quality work will be done by machines. Human beings will be needing to perform at a much higher level of capability. And as we stretch ourselves in that area, I think it is very, very good news.
Yeah. But
And
it's a transition, and perhaps we're lucky that there are folks like you in the room who've got a good view of all of this and can help those making decisions make the right kind of ones to manage that transition, especially while the world is in such a slightly chaotic condition. And I think you referenced that before, where it feels like a transitional moment, but we're not quite sure in how that might evolve. Generally speaking, though, obviously HCL itself is deeply involved in all of this, but without getting into all the details, where would you put yourself, just to round off, in terms of a spectrum of pessimism to optimism, in terms of where AI is at, in terms of how that's going to be impactful for your clients, but how ultimately over the next 5-10 years that's going to shape society? Where would you put? And you're not allowed to put yourself in the middle, because that's not fair.
so I am actually very, very optimistic about where it is going to lead to. Okay. For several reasons, it is going to demand that people get better at what they're doing. They get more creative with what they're doing. And that is where the value will be expected to be delivered, right? Organizations would need to be better to be able to attract and retain and develop such people as well. We cannot be a very staid, standard organization. Otherwise, we will not be able to attract talent, which is actually creating the difference in this world. So, therefore, both organizations and the people working for them would need to challenge themselves to perform at a higher level of creativity, innovation, and performance, right? So, which is very good, because as people and organizations get better, I mean, we are looking for a very good future. AI will actually, in a number of ways, define competitiveness of products and software that we sell, right? Because it is unlikely that we have a positioning of our products and services which do not bring about those elements of automation and benefits of that efficiency to our customers. We are unlikely to win in the market. So therefore, we will be required to bring in some of these elements of in the products that we bring to market, and there's a lot of effort that is going on to bring more and more of it. The thing that we do, however, which is slightly different, is bring about an element of pragmatism in terms of how it will be used and deployed, and how do we actually work with our clients and our partners so that we deliver it at the pace at which everybody is willing to absorb. So So that's how I see it. I remain supremely optimistic about the future and, and what it has for people. I see that getting routine work to be performed by techniques that make automation available will free up people to do many things that they have not been able to do. I give an example. When one of my managers, when I was coming to the United States, told me, and he asked me a reason, why do you want to go there? I said, there is adventure there. He said, the amount of adventure you pack in your life when you just come to office in Mumbai is more than the adventure that you will see in United States in 1 year. Now, that adventure in India is an adventure to survive, on a transit system. And whereas adventure here is, adventure on a ski slope, one does not change many things in hanging on to a peel of paint in a public transport system to land at work. It is different from the amount of time that is available, because that problem is solved here. And therefore one is able to do different things. You can go and watch a Broadway show, you can listen to good music, you can be on a ski slope, you can watch a football game, you can engage with friends. And so it does open up certain amount of time for people to engage. And as people do, because we are social people, social beings, it's very good. It's new things will happen. There'll be new games, sport that will develop. New techniques will emerge. New form of art will get created. The creativity in theaters will change.
Yeah.
People compose all kinds of music. Indian composed with American music, with African music. I mean, all those kind of possibilities exist, and that's what is very exciting.
So it's a brilliant creative future that hopefully we're looking forward to, and one that will ultimately impact and benefit our businesses as well as our lives. As long as, if I may insert a caveat, as long as people don't just use all that extra time to continue shouting at each other on the internet, because I think that would be not a productive use of time. And so I hope that one day it will help us solve that problem too. But anyway, Rajiv, that brings us to the end of our time, and I know you've got a whole business to run, so I better not take up any more of that time. But if anybody would like to read some more wisdom from Rajiv, please do come along to node-magazine.com, where we will have some more content as well as this video and podcast. Thanks very much again, Rajiv, for your time, and I hope we get to speak again in the future.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.